My introduction, yeah, very quickly. I am Varsha Agarwal. As you can see on the screen, I have around 25 years of experience in the industry as a business leader, technology leader, and overall holistic as a diversity, equity, inclusion leader as well. Now I have my own organization, which is called Lenostun, Leaving No Stone Unturned. And under that, I am doing leadership interventions, diversity, equity, inclusion interventions. And plus, I am working with a lot of diverse candidates on the ground and with the diverse and inclusive leaders also on the ground to make sure that we have a holistic demand and supply gap completely covered. So with that, now let's get going. So first of all, let's actually understand why inclusive leadership. Why do we even talk about it? If anybody would like to answer, I would definitely appreciate that. Let's wait for a second if anyone wants to answer in the chat. Okay. So if we see and talk about it, there are n number of advantages which are proven over and over again by Big Fours and by Big Fours or by Great Place to Work, by Harvard. So many studies which are done, which actually prove that why diverse leadership and why inclusive leadership is beneficial for the business, for individuals, and as well as for the entire world. Some of the numbers which you can see here on the screen, which prove that it is actually great for innovations, for talent pool availability, for exceeding financial target, for employee engagement, and so on and so forth. And my favorite is this one, which is 167% increase in the employer net promoter score. Can you believe it? Just by having inclusion and diversity. So that's the reason we should be talking about it, apart from doing great, because at times, right, people think that, okay, we should just do it because it's good to do, because we want to do something good for the world. But no, that's not the only reason. There's a lot of business benefits also, which actually for which we should be doing inclusion, diversity, and embrace inclusive leadership. But the irony is where we are right now. If I just talk about one of the few numbers, so one of the number which actually shook me around, as per Harvard, is saying that in past 8 years, there is 4x increase in skill-based job roles. Means people define that, okay, we will hire based on the skill and not based on the degrees, not based on any other characteristic, not only from top colleges and so on and so forth, but the actual number is only 1 in 700. Which means that we are probably not doing something right. One thing is being done, but the impact is not seen. And I'll talk more about it. The other thing, if you see that the other number, $8 billion is spent in diversity training in US alone, but without any measurable results, which actually shows that we are probably not moving in the right direction. And that is what we will talk about it, that in order to embrace inclusive leadership in the right way, how we need to handle it. Some more numbers, if you are still looking forward to it, right? In 40 years from the gender pay gap perspective, gender pay gap is that if there is a male who is paid $1 for a particular work to be done, then the female is only paid 18 cents less. However, they are doing the same work, and a lot of other things which we talk about. One of the other important thing to highlight is tokenism. A lot of diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives are done just to check the box. Oh, my organization has done that. Oh, we did this. Oh, we have done that. But the actual impact is not seen at all. And that's the irony. Let's see But in order to embrace diverse leadership and inclusive leadership, we also first have to intervene. We have to identify what is there, what's going on within us. So let's understand those few things a bit. If you see this image, what comes to your mind when we see this image? Anyone would like to answer on chat? What comes to our mind when we see this? Anyone? Openness. Okay. This means include all. Okay, sure. So what this shows, if you see over here, it says it's a car showroom. It's a luxury car showroom, and it says big boys toys, as if the cars are meant only for boys and not for any other gender. I am not only talking about female, but there are other genders also. Isn't it a biased view? And it comes naturally because we are so ingrained, the way we are born and brought up, and the way we see surroundings over us, it just goes into us without even knowing. So this is one example of how bias creep into us, all of us. Bias and barriers define the limits, and mindset shift break these, and that is what we will see today. How can we have the right mindset? Let's identify some of the biases which are holding us. So right now what we have seen actually is just one very small example, but there are n number of biases which are holding us. So we'll just see a quick spectrum, and the exercise for all of us actually is to just quickly identify what are the biases. Can you relate to some of the biases from here? I think this entire screen is probably not, because I see it's half cut. Not sure if we can do something in this. Yeah. Anyone would like to comment that if you are able to relate to any of the biases here? What I have done is that I have categorized a lot of biases which we all face over and over, or which we self-believe, into 4 categories. Self-bias, which is self-doubt, which is like the biases which hold us also. And biases are not only always towards somebody else. It's actually for us as well. For example, if we are trying to do something, then also we have will I be able to do it? Am I good enough for this? Am I perfect for this? What people will think about me? Oh, people will reject me. Oh, people will not listen to me. They might laugh at me. Those are also biases which hold us and hold us back. Then there are interpersonal biases which we do towards each other. Microaggressions. If we see somebody oh, okay, you got promoted. Oh, this is a diversity promotion. You got promoted because you're a woman. Oh, you got hired because you're a person with disability. These are the ones which we do to each other. These are called interpersonal biases. If you are identifying and can relate to any of the biases, please feel free to ping it on chat. Okay, Gul, thank you. Fear of rejection. Yes, I also face a lot of fear of rejection. It's always there in my mind. What people will think? Will they like it or not? Even for this session, people will like it or not? It always comes into the mind, right? But we need to overcome it. Thank you, Gul. Really appreciate. Then there are societal biases, which the society has for others, which is, it could be, one of the things which we can actually understand is public perception. Again, what people will think about me. The perception which the society has for some people. Say, for example, managing home. In India specifically, if you see, managing home, oh, this is a woman responsibility only. And if you see somebody else is doing it, oh, say if a father is cooking, oh, today dad has cooked. But if a mother has cooked, will anyone, oh, today mother has cooked. These are the kind of things. One of the story which I have, I was talking to a very esteemed leader about the biases only. It's so much ingrained. He is not allowed to take his plate and put that into the kitchen. That's from his parents and all. They are not, and that is which is there in so many households, specifically if we talk about India. That's how we are raised. It's not anybody's fault. But probably that was the culture earlier. That's how we were born and brought up. But eventually we need to change that, right? There are a lot of, the other thing which I hear a lot from pre-assumed financial freedom. Oh, say, and this I actually hear a lot from the women with disabilities or women like that who actually want to work, not because there is they don't have anyone to take care, or they don't have families and all, right? But they want to do something because they want to have a mark. They have all the knowledge, capability, caliber to achieve something. But what the family says, why do you have to work? I mean, we are there for you, right? I was talking to a woman with disability. She is and she was so great. I was teaching jewelry making in an NGO so that they can start their own business. And she was like great. Whatever I taught, she just she learned a lot on her own, and she made such beautiful uh, pieces, ornaments, and all, which actually were sold hand in hand at very high prices. She had lot of potential. But her family was well to do. They said, why do you have to work? Why do you have to be in that NGO? Why do you have to make these pieces and go to sell? You can sit at home and enjoy. That's the irony. Some other are systematic biases, which actually is pay equity, as I talk about, right? The gender diversity, the gender pay gap I spoke about. Performance evaluation. Performance evaluation, I think if a lot of you might relate to it, right? Performance evaluation, where what happens is when the performance evaluation is happening once in a year, we generally remember the recent incidents which has happened. For example, if somebody might be doing great throughout the year, but when the performance evaluation comes into picture, we remember if this person did not do this project right or did something else in just last week or last 2 weeks or last month. That is recent there in our mind. And that comes into performance evaluation. Then we look at the entire year holistically. For somebody who is on leave, it could be a paternity leave, or even if a male is on paternity leave, or even if a partner is on paternity leave, a mother is there on a woman is there on maternity leave and all. What we remember, oh, this person is on leave. Even though for 9 months they might have done great, for 10 months or 11 months they might have done great. But if in the last month, probably if they are on leave or any other leave or anything else, we remember that, oh, this person is on leave, so they have not done anything. Or they don't need promotion because anyway they are not coming back for next 6 months. These are the kind of things which hold us, which is a barrier for inclusion. Let's move on. What comes to our mind when we see this image? It is a very interesting, and it is true. These are not fake images. These are all true images. Anybody would like to share on chat? What comes to your mind if you see this? Material storage. Thank you. Safety. Yes. Quite a safe environment here. People are wearing helmets, which is not so common in India. Right. So there is a story behind this particular picture. This picture was taken by a 14-year-old girl, and she showed it to her mother saying that, see, mom, there is something unusual which is happening here. That was the mindset. What is unusual over here? A female is a supervisor in a construction project. And she found it unusual because we have not seen women doing certain jobs, or as I was talking about, male doing certain jobs, for example, taking care of the home or cooking and so on and so forth. That's how it surprises us. So nobody taught that 14-year-old that women should not be in construction business or women don't do this. But because it's so much there in the society, it's so much ingrained, it just comes. So what we need to do actually is, and what I say quite often is, if we can't be uncautious, if there is so much of unconscious bias within us, can we be cautiously unbiased? Which means we think before we react. We think before we speak. Am I being biased here? That can be the way. Because a lot of people say, and I also say, if there is a mind, there is a bias. That's how humans are wired. And that's how we see across all the things which are happening. So let's at least try to be cautiously unbiased. And that is one of the very important trait to be an inclusive leader. Okay, let's move on. So let's identify some of the barriers. So right now, so far we identified some of the biases. Now let's identify some of the barriers. I would request you again that if you are able to relate to certain barriers, then please ping us on chat. Or even if you have any questions, I'll probably give some examples. A lot of barriers actually. Let's take this example only. A woman was doing supervisor for a construction business. Inadequate infrastructure. Aren't these structure and systematic biases? Because if the work is there for whole day, if a woman has to go to washroom, where will they go? There are no specific washrooms which are there at construction sites which they can use. Still, actually, things are improving, but it's a problem. Right? Safety and security. At times, people are stopped. Many other genders also. I won't just talk about, women, right? Or don't go here, okay, because it's not safe place. Many times, if there is a travel requirement, we think twice. I was talking to one of the organization. They do last mile delivery, and they were trying to increase the number of gender diversity ratio in their organization. And we literally had to think which department we can hire more gender diverse candidates. The reason is because it's a last mile delivery. It's in very small towns in the night and sometimes at odd hours. And women don't feel safe. They don't join. So we can't increase the gender diversity ratio in those roles. We need to look at specifically the role which is sitting in office based. Isn't it stopping women who really want to do the work, do delivery work, or probably capable of doing it? These are all barriers which actually stop somebody from achieving what they really want to achieve. And what do I talk about? Cultural and societal biases which are there anyway. At times, right, what happens is, and then this is important, so let's probably talk about bystander culture. Anyone understand what's a bystander culture? It's actually, even if we are seeing something which is going wrong, but we don't talk about it. Why? Because, why? There are multiple reasons. First of all, why should I care? Second thing is that if I talk about it, people might think that I am from that particular community only. This happens quite a lot from when we talk about the Pride community or LGBTQIA plus community. I'm assuming everybody understands over here what is LGBTQIA plus. I'm mostly talking about the people who are lesbian, gay, and so on. I won't go into the details of that because that's not the objective of the workshop, and we are talking about inclusive leadership over here. But that's the thing. So at times when there is a microaggression, when there is an unfair behavior, when there is anything which is happening towards that particular community, even if we feel that it is wrong, we still do not talk about it because we fear that others will think that if I talk about it or if I object, people might think that I am also from the same community. People might think I am also gay. So even if we can stop something from going wrong, we don't. Other kind of barriers, obviously we don't have time to go into each and every barrier, but I would say that if you are able to associate with some other barrier, try to see how can we reduce it? How can we overcome that? Let's move on. Now we talk about, so far we spoke about why do we need inclusive leadership, why it is important, what are the different biases and barriers, okay, which we have, what is holding us, and what is holding the society and the organization policies and so on and so forth. So now let's understand how can we overcome it. In order to overcome it, at times we actually think that, oh, it's not my job. Anyway, it's the job of a leader. Anyway, it's the job of only DI person. Anyway, it's the job of only HR. But that is not the case. If we really want to make a difference, each and every person on the earth, whether it's any persona, obviously here I was not able to capture all the personas. I am only representing from an organization perspective. But even if somebody is not in an organization, even if they are in manufacturing, retail, whatever, blah, blah industries and all, and even if you are not working as well or home or traveler or whatever it is, it's each and every person's job to make sure that we are able to make a difference, and then only there will be a change which will happen. So let's actually see over here that from an organization perspective, it's not only the job of an executive or CEO or CFO. It's everyone, which is HR, employee resource groups. Employee resource groups are the ones which actually are formed, which are small communities. For example, the community for LGBTQIA plus or people with disability, people of color, and so on and so forth. Then the workplace team. Workplace teams are the one which actually make sure, take care of the infrastructure, take care of security and travel, and so on and so forth. Then obviously employees and different teams, supplier and vendors, because at times organization work with a lot of suppliers and vendors, right? Where it could be the supplier for stationery, it could be supplier for the resources, it could be supplier for anything else. Then the diverse candidate itself, which means the women, people with disabilities, people of color, and so on and so forth, are customers. At times we say that, okay, it's only responsibility of the organization, the people who are in the organization, but it's very much the responsibility of the customers as well, because they have a lot of impact. It's eventually, whether we are in any business, service based or product based and all, eventually we are serving somebody, right? Who are our customers. And at times, the customer policies drives few of the things in the organization. Hence, customer is also a very important persona in the overall DIB ecosystem or inclusive leadership ecosystem. Please feel free to let me know if there are any questions. Now, let's actually understand what is the DIB ecosystem overall. What all it comprises of? So first we spoke about the persona. Now we will actually talk about what all we should be looking forward to it. If my screen is small and if you're not able to see, then please let me know. I was trying to fit the entire image in this. Hopefully it is readable now. So what all it comprises of? First of all, not only one thing. See, for example, at times we say that, oh, okay, if I have a RAM, this I have heard quite a lot. Oh, I have a RAM in my office premises, and people think that as far as I have the RAM, my organization is inclusive, my leadership is inclusive. That is what I have heard and seen. Oh, and then some people say, oh, I have 30% gender diversity ratio. I am inclusive organization. Oh, I have just hired 2 people with disability. Oh, my organization is inclusive. No, that is not the case. And that is what which I spoke earlier, that we do small things in small tokens. Just it could be because of the branding, reputation, marketing, competition, and so on and so forth. But that is not true diverse ecosystem, and that's not true inclusive leadership. It actually includes a lot of things. First of all, if we really want to do it the right way, we first do the assessment and benchmarking. As a leader, I first should be doing assessment. Where do I stand right now? And what is the benchmark which which I really need to go? And I am not saying that we always should focus for perfection only, that, oh, okay, in this particular time frame, I will achieve this. I will actually change the holistic infrastructure. I'll do Eureka things and all. But even though we go very slow, even though we go step by step, but identifying where we are and where we need to go is very important. And that's all of us do, right? When we strive to join an organization, when we strive to do something different, when we strive to learn something new, what do? We say, okay, I don't know this, and this is where I stand right now. This is my goal. I need to join this organization, or I need to learn this programming. And then we create our path, right? We just don't start doing things randomly. And that is what which actually assessment and benchmarking. Second thing what we should do is define a strategy and program plans. And it could be a very small strategy as well. Not saying that we actually have to do that, okay, tomorrow I will be 50% gender diverse, I will be 30% people with disability, all my infrastructure will be 100% accessible. No. Depending on my business, depending on my industry, what can I do? Given the circumstances, given the profitability, given the kind of people, resources which I have right now, what can I do? One example which I would like to give over here, I was talking to a TA leader and the talent acquisition leader of an MNC. And they were very keen. So they asked me, hey, I really want to do and hire people with disabilities. I really want to make sure that my infrastructure is accessible and so on. But I know that I will not be able to do, because I don't have accessible infrastructure as of now. I don't have license for some of the accessible products. I can't do, I don't have resources. I don't have budget, and so on and so forth. So I told them, at least can we do very small thing, which is, let's just define a strategy and let's hire people who are low vision. That doesn't need any infrastructure. It just required a screen reader license, or probably the magnifier, which is anyway built into these days into the laptops. And I am talking about IT industry, but there are 100 other examples which are like that. And that doesn't require anything else. And that is what I talk about when I talk about strategy. Strategy of diversity, equity, inclusion, same thing doesn't work for all. What is most important for an inclusive leader is, as per our business, as per my industry, as per my profitability, as per my business goals, let us define what can I do. What is that one small step which I can still take? And then define the corresponding program plans. And then whatever we want to do, we need to make sure that I am not only tackling one thing, but I am actually tackling product, process, policies, places, partners, performance, everything in that small space only, in that one particular space. Again, let me give you an example. Someone in some organization, a person from speech and hearing impairment, they hired a person with speech and hearing impairment, but they did not take care of the processes probably which is required behind that, or the products or the policies. So as we can understand that the person from the speech and hearing impairment, they can't hear, right? So what is the mode of communication? Is only the written communication. But the person was hired in hurry, but there was no process which was defined for awareness to make sure that the manager and the team are actually trained to say that, okay, you need to make sure that you're only talking to them over chat. And sometimes their English might not be very grammatically correct, but you need to understand in this way. And same thing for the person, the candidate also who are hired, is make sure that you are, whatever you're typing, you're checking first it with the Google translation or checking it. Nowadays, we have a lot of AI software which can actually correct the sentences. So there was no process which was taken care. And then the complaint was they're not able to understand what we are saying and they're not able to do the work clearly. So the thing which is very important for an inclusive leader is making sure that even if you are taking one small step, but we are making sure that we are thinking about the ecosystem which is required for that candidate, for that manager, for that team, for that BU to be successful. And we are not putting anyone for failure. Because once it fails and couple of times fails, right? Then what happens is people just define, oh, I knew this is not going to work. Then the door of that particular inclusive path just shuts down completely. Because people say, we tried, it did not work. It's not for us. That's why I always say that even if we do very small thing, but we should do it in the right way. Right? Then comes the sensitization and representation. I spoke about that belief already, but there are a bunch of other things apart from awareness and sensitization, which say, one more example which I can give you how awareness and sensitization is important, correct? Which is one of the person from the vision impairment was hired in an organization. And, but there was no holistic awareness and sensitization which was done. So there was a fire drill which was happening in that organization, and the security guard comes running towards that person. The person thought that this person is coming to rescue me. Probably he is told on how to rescue a person with disability. This was a person with it could be a person with a wheelchair or person with the vision impairment. But the security guard says, sir, you can be seated here only. This is just a drill. Now imagine the candidate thought, am I supposed to be seated here only if it is actual fire? What they'll do? Nobody's trained. Accidents can happen. Right? So that's why, again, I am repeating it. Even if we do a very small step, it is very important to make sure that we take care of it holistically. And there is a mapping which is available, right? That if I am looking forward for this particular step to be taken in my organization, these are the 3 different things which I must take care of. As I said, that if somebody does not have any infrastructure, they don't have anything, okay? And if they decide to hire a person with low vision, for example, okay, then what are the 3 things which I need to do? Okay, I don't need a ramp. I don't need accessible braille doors. I don't need sensory doors. But I need certain things. For example, the laptop should be built-in magnifier. The screen reader license should be there. The team and the manager should know that there are people with low vision. Right? So the product which they need to use probably should be accessible so that they can just increase the font. Sometimes we hire people who are colorblind. the products which they need to use, does it have contrast, color contrast? So those are some of the things which needs to be taken care so that they can be successful and the team is also successful. Then the other important thing, the last but not the least actually, measure and sustain and scale. I think all of you might have heard, right, that out of sight, out of mind. Unless we see how we are growing, unless we measure something, we don't know where we stand and where we have to go. So even if we take a very small step, but it is very, very important for us to make sure that we are measuring where we are. And then we are taking the path forward. Okay, sorry, I didn't see the chat for some time, but yeah, thank you, Vijay. Vijay is saying to be cautiously unbiased. Love the idea behind it. Thank you so much, Vijay. Yes, that is what I actually say, that if you can't, because we have I mean, that's how we are actually, right? We are always biased. So at least we can be cautiously unbiased. Thank you so much, Vijay, for that. Okay, let's move on. I spoke about accessibility. Many people actually here, again, this is very important from a leader perspective, because sometimes, as I mentioned, if we have a ramp, people say that, oh, okay, yeah, I am 100% accessible. My office has a ramp. Or if somebody has a screen reader, they say, oh, okay, no, we have a laptop with screen reader. We are 100% accessible. No, but that is not the only thing when we talk about accessibility. There are a bunch of things. We won't go into the details of each and everything, but probably just to showcase the spectrum of accessible when we talk about accessible ecosystem. First of all, the infrastructure. The infrastructure needs to be buildings, meeting rooms, washroom. This is something which we don't actually care, right? We say that, okay, as far as I have a ramp, as far as I have braille in the lift, I am done. But can the people enter in the meeting room? Can even the wheelchair enter into a meeting room? Right? Can they enter into washroom? Sometimes I have seen washroom itself as steps, even though the building is accessible. The building entrance is accessible, but the washrooms are not. Common areas, pantries. Can people go and order on their own in the pantries? This is one of the things which I've seen mostly ignored. They say, no, we have people to help. No, why do they need help? People like to be independent. So like that, bunch of other things. Second thing is our digital accessibility. As I said, people of low vision, people who are colorblind, and so on and so forth, are my products, is my digital assets accessible? Website, platforms, documents. At times, right, we give, when somebody joins, we give them the manuals to read, which are not accessible at all, right? Internal and external application, are these accessible? Are my own products accessible? In one of the organizations I saw earlier, they were quite old, almost 30 years old, and the products were not accessible at all. The products which are selling in the market. And that's when the customer actually come into picture, right? The customer vendor actually come into picture. Even though the organization was not quite focused on this, but the customer started saying, I need your product to be accessible because I hire diverse candidate and they are not able to do the job. Think about it. It is customer driven. If you want to renew licenses, you need to make sure that your product is accessible. Isn't it great? And then I know that particular organization, 3 years they worked consistently. They fixed 20,000 bugs in their product to make sure that at least P1 and P2s and P3s are taken care. Processes. Are my processes accessible? Which I spoke about. Performance management process. Are we fair? And at times there are HR processes, right? There are HR portals, there are TA portals. Sometimes when somebody joins, right, we need to sign forms, correct? And there is an onboarding session which happen. Is that accessible? Because sometimes we have huge PPTs and we are going on and on and on, one after the other, one after the other, one after the other. Is it accessible? A lot of other things. Policies are a great part actually of it. Yeah, one example which I would like to give, right, which is supplier and vendor. As I spoke about the customer, suppliers and vendors also play a major part, right? Sometimes we say that, yes, I am 100% accessible and we are actually partnering with the suppliers, but are we partnering with the suppliers and vendors who are accessible? How much percentage of my business am I giving to the diverse suppliers and diverse, vendors? What are the policies in there? Like the way somebody make their products accessible because the customers are pushing them, same way am I pushing my suppliers and vendors to make sure that they are also inclusive, they are also accessible, can drive them, right? So one of the organization I know, what they said that in order to renew a license for a employee engagement portal, so they had to renew a license I won't take the name of the software, but it was employee engagement, portal. And the CIO said very clearly, next year I will renew this particular product only when it is accessible. So are we making sure that we are also strong and driving with our suppliers and vendors and the people? A lot of times actually, there are staff org resources, contractor resources, the people who work on the ground, the security staff, right? The ground staff. Are we working with those organizations to make sure that, no, you also have to hire diverse candidate, then only I will take the resources from you. That way also we can drive a lot of things. Sure. Any questions? You can please put it on chat. Let me see if there are any comments in chat. I suggest we need to make it simplify so as all understand. The common man is not well educated and they need simple way to understand this issue. Gul, sure. If it is a comment for me, then please let me know. I can elaborate on that particular point a lot more. Okay, I will wait for your comment, Gul, till then I will move on. I can definitely elaborate more. Yeah, so I think yes, for the people who are working in a particular organization, and that is when which, yeah, the overall material or policy, yes. So and that's the reason when we say that when we talk about the mapping. So when we work with the various organizations and so what we is that if there is a particular category, then these are the 10 things which we need to do, and in a very simplistic way. And that's when assessments come into picture. If somebody wants to probably endeavors from the gender, say for example, from the gender perspective, then the idea behind is as an inclusive leader, what we need to do is that define those 5 steps which needs to be done in order to be gender diverse. Example, the performance evaluation policy or maternity leave policy, or making sure that there are sensitization for microaggressions, sensitization for awareness, sensitization for how do we deal with certain scenarios and situations. Do the organization already have POSH implemented? Do we have ethics and compliance or not? So a bunch of those things we can define actually in that. In this 1 hour presentation, obviously it was not possible to define those each and every step for every category. But that is what is the job of an inclusive leader, is what I'm trying to bring to. That as an inclusive leader, let's look at the things holistically across all personas, across all BUs, across all departments in an organization. Sure. Hope this helps, Gul. Any further questions, please let me know. Okay, let's move on. So what's the quick framework which we can look at? How can we start? Obviously, there are a bunch of steps and all, but quickly when we want to categorize, thank you, Gul. But quickly if we want to categorize that, identifying the current state. So I spoke about assessments earlier, right? And that's when the first step is to identify the current stage of the organization. What's the second step? Understand business context. And that is something which is very, very important. Most organizations fail in this. And as an inclusive leader, what I need to do is, same thing doesn't work for everybody. One organization could be retail, another organization could be manufacturing, third organization could be hospitality, fourth organization could be IT, fifth could be finance, could be n number of industries. Even in a single industry also, every organization is different. Every BU is different. Every team is different. So first of all, I need to understand as an inclusive leader, what is the business context? Let me give an example, right? I was talking about one of the organization which was in last mile delivery, correct? So obviously we can't change all 360-degree, right? We can't boil the ocean in one day, or even in 1 year, or even in 10 years also, specifically where we are. So doesn't mean we should not do anything, right? We should do something small. So say if that organization decides that I want to move into gender diversity ratio, example, and they are into last mile delivery. So can they move into gender diversity ratio across all departments, across all BUs? No, because there are barriers. Safety, security, and the infrastructure and so on and so forth. But can they meet the gender diversity ratio in sales organization, in marketing organization, which is sitting in office job? Let's say, for example, if there is a retail organization and they want to meet the gender diversity ratio, can they do it on shop floor? Yes, they can do it. Right? If there is, but can they meet the people with disability criteria over here if they want to hire people with speech and hearing impairment? No, because they need to talk to customers every day. And every customer is not trained on sign language. But say if there is a manufacturing organization, can they meet the people with disability if they want to hire people with speech and hearing? Yes, probably they can, depending on how they need to operate the machine. Done. There was a news, right? Tata Motors has hired 23 in there for just one shop floor. 23 people with speech and hearing impairment. That's why I say same thing doesn't work for everybody. And that's why copying from somebody, because somebody is doing it, because of the branding and reputation and for competition and all, same thing doesn't work for everybody. It puts us for failure. Understanding the business, understanding what drives us, understanding what my requirements are is very important from an inclusive leader perspective before I take a decision to do something. Right? Then define short and long-term goals. And that is something which we actually fail, because at times I have seen organization, when we start, right, we are so much of enthusiasm. No, by next year I will be 50% gender diversity. And just to meet the numbers, You get people from somewhere, from ABC, from ABO, from this college, from that college, and this and that. But are we putting them for success? I think no. I've given examples, right? That person from speech and hearing impairment was hired, but they failed. Person from person on motor disability was hired, but there was no safety and security for them in the organization. Lot of such other examples. So we really need to define what's my goal, where I want to reach, and even if it take 10 years or 15 years, but taking the step holistically by defining the goals, and then by making sure that what do I need to do holistically in order to achieve those goals is very important. Then identify spokes. Because obviously everybody cannot do everything, right? A single DI leader in an organization, and at times there is no DI leader in the organization itself. A single executive in an organization cannot drive the change. We need to identify spokes, means point of contact in every BU. At least the person who can speak their BU language, because as I said, every BU is different. Then if you are focusing on hiring, then probably that particular SPOC and the talent acquisition team or HR team have to talk to each other. Then the talent acquisition, SPOC, DI leader and ERG need to talk to each other. That's when the holistic change is understood, which I think Gul, you were also talking about, right? How can we simplify it? We can simplify it. We can identify each and every step, what needs to be done when all these people work together in an organization. And all these people provide from TA perspective, I need to do this. From DI leader, I need to do this. From as a ERG person, I need to do this. And so on and so forth. The other thing I would say is listening. At times we fail into this actually a lot. Sometimes even if we do everything right, suppose everyone join hands, the TA, SPOC, HR, leaders, ERG, DI, everybody join hands, everything is done well in the organization. And after that, we assume that everything is right because we took care of everything. Are we listening? Most of the time, I talk to organizations, and the one thing which I question, they say we have ERGs, right? We have ERGs for women, we have ERGs for people with disability, we have ERGs for LGBTQIA plus community. They share their challenges, they talk to each other, then we take care of it, and so on and so forth. But I question them. Do you have ERGs for hiring managers? Do you have ERGs for TA team? Somebody should listen to them also, right? Because there are the hiring managers, what is their responsibility? There are a lot of responsibilities of a particular. What happened? Are you able to hear me still? It says my connection is lost.
Yes, ma'am, we can hear you.
Sure. Thank you. Thanks a lot. So what happens actually is, so I question them. So what all is the responsibility of a hiring manager is to make sure that the entire team is successful, the candidate is successful, they are able to do the delivery, they are able to do everything. But with a diverse candidate or with anything, I mean, right, there could be n number of challenges. Who is listening to them? Is there any community for them so that they can share their challenges? For example, what happened once actually is a person was hired from LGBTQIA plus community in a particular team, and the work was not assigned because people were not comfortable talking to them. Nobody was comfortable talking to them, right? And the hiring manager was facing a bunch of challenges in that perspective. If they say please assign the work, then he was facing challenges. If they don't assign the work, then the candidate is sitting idle, and still the HR manager has to do the delivery. Correct? So where do they share their challenges? How can they share and learn? Because somebody else might have hired a person from LGBTQIA plus community. They might have solved that particular problem. But is there a forum to share and learn? No. As TA, talent acquisition, people face a lot of challenges in order to identify candidates, in order to source those candidates, in order to get the right resume itself. Then talking to them, interviewing. Is anybody listening to them? No, there's no forum, because we think that ERGs are, as far as we have done the ERGs for the diverse candidates, it is good enough. No, that is not the case. That is absolutely not the case. Everybody in this particular world, all the personas in this particular, whatever I have shared earlier, have to have ERGs. They need to be listened. They need to share and learn. And the last but not the least is, as I said, measure and improve. Measure and improve is something which we need to do for sure. Okay. Any questions? Let me quickly see the chat. Vijay is saying, oh, the Titans are great in many aspects, including inclusiveness and so on. I thought so. Oh, Tatas. Okay, yes. Oh, definitely they are, for sure. Yes, and that's the example which I shared, right? A lot of them, actually Tatas are the ones, if we hear Tata story, sometimes the Jamshedji Tata, right? He started 40 hours of work per week. PF was started by them. Health insurance was started by them. All these are also the policy, right, to take care of the people. So they are actually great. And and it was just the recent news which I shared that they hired 23 people with speech and hearing impairment in their shop floor. Examples, yes, they are setting examples, right? Let's move on. So maturity model, again, this is just to keep in mind, not that we really have to make sure that, yes, in 1 year, I will move from unaware to market leader, but because we need to be aware, we need to make sure that we are defining short-term, medium-term and long-term goals. And as I mentioned earlier, we need to know, where do I stand right now and where do I need to go? Doesn't mean that we always have to strive to be a market leader, or I always need to strive to be sustainable. But wherever my organization, my business, my strategies allow me to go. Okay? But these are some of the things which are industry standards. I could be at unaware stage right now, where as an organization, and again, when I talk about these stages, right, it doesn't just apply to organization. It applies to individuals as well. As an individual, do I know anything, or I am completely unaware? Right? As an organization, am I completely unaware, or do I know something? Let's see if there is a comment on chat. Yeah, they are. Okay, sure. So unaware is the one, right? When zero awareness, don't know anything about it at all. What is inclusive leadership? What is DEI? And we don't even consider it worth knowing as well. And I have seen many organizations which actually fall into this particular category. Nothing wrong in it, but are we striving towards something is what we need to look for. Then comes the foundation. And this is something which we can identify by doing the right assessments. It could be surveys, it could be talking to people, talking to leaders, focus group sessions, and so on and so forth. We generally say that we are at foundation stage if at least my leadership is aware what is inclusion, what is DEI, right? And they at least give it some importance. And then the steps are taken at least for awareness in the organization. Right? And employees are also keen to make sure that at least they want to be aware. Right? Third stage is compliance stage. When the things are done just to be compliant, bare minimum with the laws. because there are certain laws also which are related to that. For example, POSH. Earlier, there were, POSH was not there, right? Prevention of sexual harassment. Then POSH became the law. An organization had to comply to that. Still, certain organizations do not comply. But every organization did. Actually, whosoever has more than 10 employees in their organization had to comply with POSH. So probably many organizations might not be doing anything, but they are doing POSH because it's a law. Right? Certain organizations probably might not be compliant and they are ready to pay the fines. I know because in China it is important. It's not still a law in India, because in India we still say that we need to have equitable framework, right? No discrimination. But in China, for example, we have a law that 2% of the employees in a particular organization need to be people with disability. Still, in a lot of organization in China, that is not the case. They pay the fine. That is not compliance. Okay. Compliance is when we meet whatever is designated by the law. Okay. And that's when compliant, that at least I am doing bare minimum to meet the laws. Okay. And what do organizations do in some scenario? That in their job description, in their documents and all, you have seen a lot of job descriptions, right? These days, people say we are an inclusive organization. We don't discriminate based on caste, gender, and a lot experience and a lot of other things. Because that is the law which actually says is that you need to have no discrimination. But that doesn't mean that the discrimination doesn't come in their hiring process, right? People reject, but there is no law to measure that, right? Then comes the strategic thing. We call that an organization is at a strategic stage when at least there are goals which are defined with the business objective. Example, that I will make sure that my products do not have any P1 and P2 issues from accessibility perspective. It's a very clear goal which is defined, right? I will not release a product which has a P1 or P2 accessibility issue. Clear goals. I will make sure that 50% of my business, or say 30% or 20% of my business goes to diverse suppliers, right? Those are the kind of clear goals which are defined. Then we say that these are strategic. These goals should be SMART goals, which can be measured. Not that okay, I will make sure that my organization is gender diverse. That's not strategic. No timeline, no clear goal, no path to achieve that. So that's not strategy. And second thing, which when we say in a strategic stage, is when DI is seen as must have operational strategies. Means, as I gave example, right, my 30% of my supplier will be from diverse background. So there are very clear operational goals which are specified. Okay. And all the leaders are held accountable. Sometimes what happens actually here is when actually people say that, oh, okay, we have defined clear goals, we have policies to achieve that, we have ABC and all, but nobody is accountable and nobody is responsible for it. For example, when we say that, oh, okay, I will make sure that there are no P1 and P2s in my products, but there is no single person or there is no single department which is accountable for it. We say RACI matrix, right? Responsible, accountable, information, and so on. So then what we say is the product management says that, oh, okay, I didn't know that it was my responsibility and I had to define the use cases in that way. The QA team says, no, 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 not my I didn't know that I have to test for accessibility. The development team says, oh, I didn't know that I have to fix these, right? Where is the clear accountability and responsibility? So it's also very important to make sure that in just defining the clear goals is not enough. Making sure that people are responsible, accountable, and clear race is defined is also very, very important. Then only we say that that particular organization is strategic towards that, right? Then comes integrated. Integrated means when we don't have to think twice. Okay. It is given that inclusion is like completely integrated. It's like bounded into each and every aspects of the organization. It could be process, it could be policies, it could be suppliers, it could be vendors, it could be infrastructure, and so on and so forth. One example which I can give is, say, for example, if a particular organization decides to do a new building, right? So if that organization is only strategic, what they will say is that they will explicitly define that I will make sure that my new building has ramp, my new building has sensory doors, my new building has this ABC things and all. But if an organization is integrated, it is given that these things will be taken care. Nobody has to define these explicitly and say explicitly that this is my another goal. My one goal is to make sure that I get a new building. My second goal is to make sure that I have these ABC sensory doors and blah, blah, and so on. But if organization is integrated, means it is given that it is taken care 100%. That's when we call it as, say, if that organization is defining a new policy, say onboarding policy or anything, it is given that they will define inclusive policy. They don't have to instruct anybody that make sure that policy is inclusive. If you are interviewing somebody, then we don't have to provide explicit instruction to make sure that, okay, please make sure that interview is inclusive. It is given. People are trained enough. People are aware enough. People are bought into the inclusion and diversity and equity ecosystem well enough that it is not even a second nature, first nature for them. That's when we call it that organization as integrated. Then sustainable. This is one of the very important thing is, as I mentioned earlier, sometimes we say that sometimes when we start, we are very, very enthusiastic and we say, I will achieve this and that and all. But are we defining my goals, my strategy in a way that it is scalable and sustainable? Can I do the things year over year? Can I replicate? Can I make sure that it is not just 1 year or 2 year or 3 year thing? And the most important thing is here is when we make sure that these initiatives, these strategies, these integrations do not come and go with a leader. This is one of the very basic issue which we have seen in a lot of organization where certain leaders are very enthusiastic, right? And a lot of initiatives and a lot of things are actually happening till those leaders are in the organizations. After that, just goes down. Sustainable organization is when it's not few people driven, but it is the nature of the organization, right? The last one which we say is a market leader. Is the organization at a stage where it can change the market, it can motivate other industries to do it? Has it defined the best practices in a way that others are learning from it? Others are able to learn from those, imbibe those into their industries. Others look at that particular organization as a role model. And at times we say, right, that we in, I mean, businesses, we say, yeah, we created a new category. We say, right, that, okay, they have disrupted the organization, they have disrupted the market, disrupted the industry. Is that particular organization getting any disruption? Then we call that organization as market leader in the inclusive leadership. Any questions? You can put those questions on chat if anybody has. Okay, so now comes, we have seen a lot of things, right? That for inclusive leader, we need to take care. Sorry. For inclusive leader, we need to take care of the ecosystem. We need to make sure that all personas are included. We need to identify, we need to do assessments. We need to identify the stages. We need to make sure that we are very strategic. We define the goals and so on and so forth and on. Now we will see what's a catalyst to embrace inclusive leadership. Here we will talk about various characteristics of an inclusive leader as an individual. As an individual, in order for me to be inclusive leader, what are the catalysts? And in order for us to remember it clearly, I have used catalyst as an acronym. Okay, so if you also want to remember it that particular way, you can also keep that catalyst as an acronym, and there are breakups of that. First of all, coach. I'm sure all of us are helping each other. All of us are talking to each other, listening to others' problem. As an inclusive leader, we need to make sure that we are coach at some particular point of time whenever it is required. What a coach does, they don't direct, okay, this is what you need to do, or this is something which needs to be done. They do self-discovery. They ask the other person the questions in a way that a person is able to do, the person is able to self-discover the challenges and the solutions. For example, as an inclusive leader, if I am talking to HR, right? I don't say that as an HR, you need to do this. As an HR, you need to have this policy. But I am asking the right questions. Hey, do you think our parental leave policy is helping our employees? Have you seen examples of people facing challenges? At times, which actually comes, we have seen examples where the issue which happens, the maternity leave used to be 6 months, but the paternity leave is only for 2 weeks or 1 week, actually 5 days only 5 days. Then what becomes the given culture? That as soon as a child is born, it is only the responsibility of a mother to take care of the child because the father doesn't even have the leaves. Is it imbibing a great culture in the organization and in the overall society? Probably not. And that's how these probing questions are asked. Do you think, as a HR leader, this particular policy is imbibing a good culture in the organization? And then they make the person think. Okay. Then comes advisor. That is strategic guidance to navigate. In certain cases, we need to do that. An advisor is something where we actually have the experience in that particular field and we are able to advise on those scenarios and situations. Next, trusted mentor. How many of you have mentors for you? Any one of you have mentors? You can put that on chat actually if you have. But yeah, at times the inclusive leader has to be a mentor, because specifically in this particular field in inclusion and diversity, this area is not well understood at all. And as I mentioned throughout this particular our conversation, a lot of challenges actually, because of the biases, barriers, because of our thought, because of the way things are, because of uh, the way we need to achieve the goals, the pressure, everything and all. So at times, an inclusive leader has to be a mentor as well. Mentor to any persona. Sometimes even a diverse candidate might be very agitated. Can we be a mentor to them? Sometimes, as I have given you examples of hiring managers, right? Who is listening to them? Sometimes we need to be mentor to them. How can you traverse this very difficult situation? Then accountability partner. I spoke about accountability and RACI actually a lot. So as an inclusive leader, if we have defined certain goals, short term, long term, blah, blah, and all, are we holding the people accountable as well for that? Are you questioning if something is not met? For example, we gave this example only, right? No P1 and P2 bucks, right? From accessibility perspective. Am I questioning the team who is delivering the product? Have I made them accountable that probably your bonus or probably or your commission and so on and so forth is tied to this particular thing? That's also a very important trait of an inclusive leader. Role model. At times, what happens is we define strategies, we define goals, but we ourselves don't role model that. One example I want to give, which I still remember, which happens, I won't take the name of the leader or anything, but yeah, this has happened. In that particular organization, it is always told that everybody is equal, right? Whether it's a MD or whether it's a security guard, everybody is equal, everybody deserves respect. And the process of that particular organization obviously is, as soon as, whenever you want to cross a gate, you have to swipe the card. So this particular MD probably forgot the card on a particular day, right? And he was talking to other colleagues, and he barged into the door. The security guard stopped and said, "Sir, can you please swipe the card?" And the MD was, "Don't you know who I am? Don't you recognize me at all? You're stopping me?" And he was furious. Later, he complained to the supervisor of the security guard. This guard does not even know the MD of the organization for which he is working, for which they are working for. Is it a good behavior? Is it a good role modeling? We understand that the MD is very busy, but is it a good role model? Are we living what we are defining? No, right? That is which actually happens. Sometimes when we say that, yes, we want to hire diverse teams, we want to be inclusive, we'll do that, but but all that responsibility is given to other hiring manager or other BU. No, my BU cannot cater to that because we already have a lot of challenges. No, my BU cannot do that because we have to meet sales targets. So we define a lot of things, but we put the responsibility to somebody else, and we don't role model that we really truly mean what we are defining. So that is also very important. Support network. So this is again very important, specifically in this. As an inclusive leader, do I have the network to support me? Right? When I get into a problem, I spoke about ERGs, right? When I get into a problem, do I have somebody to talk to? Do I have people who will stand by me and guide me? Do I have people whom I can reach out to? Do I have an ecosystem which is supporting me to achieve what I want to achieve as an inclusive leader? We need to build that. And we need to make sure that we can reach out to that support system at any particular point of time. Sponsor. It's one of the things which we fail as an individual also, and as an inclusive leader also. At times we get the mentor. At times we get the coach. But we don't get the sponsors. Somebody who is advocating us, advocating the policies, advocating what we want to do when we are not into the room. For example, if some ERG or some particular leader, some hiring manager, somebody who is really passionate about it, right? But do I have my manager? Do I have my leader? Do I have anybody who is sponsoring what I want to achieve? Could be that not always in the inclusive or in the diverse perspective also, but as an individual as well. When I am doing something great, do people know that I am doing something great? Do people know that I have delivered this project really, really well? And they advocate me for the promotion, for the next role when I am not into the room. And this is also very important as a leader, that we have people around us, network, and the people who talk about us good when we are not into the room. Personal support system, this is very, very important, because unless and until I am at peace of mind, my family is peace of mind, my loved ones are at peace of mind, my people are doing good, my family is doing good, my loved ones are doing good, I really personally cannot achieve anything well. It's making sure, and this is something where we hesitate to ask for help. And at times we assume that we will not get help at all. But that is not the case. Unless until we ask, the answer is always no. So let's make sure that we ask the help which we need, and we are not always a single flag bearer. No, I am the only one who can change this. I am the one who doesn't need any help. I am the one who can bear all responsibility. Nothing else is needed. No, that is not the case. Whether as a leader or as an inclusive leader or even as an individual. At times this actually happens with a lot of women or men or with the people, right? They assume that balancing family, right, is only my responsibility, and nobody will help me. Sometimes men assume that, right, taking care of all finances is only my responsibility. No, that is not the case. Let's build a support system with which we can reach out to at any particular point of time. Okay. Okay, this I wanted to share. From support system perspective, probably from professional world or from personal, that how much actually people are willing to help, but we don't ask. So this is, and again, all my stories are true stories. So this was a lady who actually was on a gap for almost 5 years. She took maternity leave, and after that she wanted to get into the job after she took care of some of the personal responsibility which she had. She had a small daughter, and then she probably did not have help at her home, or there were challenges or whatever it was, and she was not able to attend certain interviews for 3-4 times. She had to kept on postponing, and then eventually she went and asked the hiring manager, can I get my daughter for interview? They said, yes, please go ahead. And they not only allowed her for interview, but they also made sure that she is taken care while the mother is giving interviews. They assigned a person to take care of her because she was very small. So sometimes we assume that we will not get help, but that is not the case. If we ask, we will get help. So this is a summary, right, of the catalyst, what I spoke about. What is the responsibility? Who are all the catalysts and what value they add, and where can I find them? For example, what is the value which a coach can add, who they are, and where can I find them? Advisor, trusted mentor, accountability partner, role model, and so on and so forth. So if you are looking forward to get one for you in order to be an inclusive leader, or even to do good and better as an individual, these are all the personas which we need for sure. And this is where probably you can get them. And this is what is the value which you should look forward from them. But it's always a give and take situation, okay? As we say, 99% we need to give, 1% we receive. But that 1% is actually so much, which is more than enough for us to be successful. Last one, is there a formula for inclusive leadership? No. There is no specific formula. There is no one thing which can make us an inclusive leader or which can make us better as an individual. But we can definitely cultivate it. How? By being, as I mentioned, by being cautiously unbiased. Be mindful, thinking and acting on how can we break down our barriers. Then belonging, making sure and making an environment where people feel respected, accepted and valued, and balancing. Balance is very, very important. Which one Y stands for? Okay, I'll go back, Vijay, there. Balancing is, see, I'm repeating over and over again, right? At times, right, we get very enthusiastic and we say that, yes, we will achieve everything. We will actually take care of everything. We will do this, we will do that. But balancing is important because we cannot boil the ocean in one day. We really need to make sure that the responsibilities, accountabilities, representation, opportunities, decision making, my personal, professional support network, my well-being, everything is in great balance, right? And that's when we can cultivate the inclusive leadership. Let's come to the why. That is your professional support network, Vijay. That is, what is your professional support network? Do you have people whom you can reach out to? Do you have people whom you can look for guidance? If you are looking to, for example, hiring managers, right? If I am facing a challenge as an hiring manager, yes, this is the why from Catalyst, Vijay. This is your professional support network. That's what Y stands for. If you see, this is the catalyst. This is the catalyst. C for coach, A for advisor, T for trusted mentor, A for accountability partner, L for leadership role model, Y for your professional support network, S for sponsor, T for trusted personal support system. Okay. So with that, we come to an end. I open for questions. If anyone has questions or any discussion points, please feel free to bring it. We'll be more than happy to answer it. And one of the things which I always say, and this is one of my favorite quote actually in there, just because we cannot do everything, because things are very challenging, very difficult actually. Personally, professionally, and in diversity, equity, inclusion, and in overall, right? Just that just because we cannot achieve everything doesn't mean we will not do anything. Let's start small. Because if we start small and if everybody work towards it, or most of it work, towards it, right? one day I make sure, I assure you that inclusion and diversity will be so common that it will become common sense. Then we don't have to think about all this. Then we don't need the workshop. We don't need awareness and all, because it will become so common that it will be common sense. Sometimes we say, isn't it common sense? It will become common sense. But it will take a long time to reach there. But in order to reach there, all of us need to work towards it in small step, whatever is in my capability and caliber.